G'day mate, 40 here. So in the early 1990s, when I became serious about converting to Judaism, I reconnected with a friend from my childhood, and he complained about the Jewish group strategy. So he talked about when a Gentile would sell a house, right? Gentiles would come individually or as couples, but when Jews came to buy a house, they'd come as a group, right? They'd bring their accountant, their lawyer, right? They'd use the group strategy as opposed to the individual strategy. I think that example is a good example for describing the difference between a group strategy and individual strategy. Now, obviously, plenty of Jews buy real estate or go into business just on their own, but I do notice as a convert to Judaism, there's much more ease at embracing a group strategy to life. Like, there's more at ease with the idea that life is with the people, and that you tap the expertise of your friends in the community, and there's more willingness to go into business, go into ventures, go into vacations together. More willingness and interest in not only working together but going on holiday together, having Shabbat dinner together. So in Anglo life there was more separation. So you may not socialize as much with people you work with. You may not go on holidays with them. You may not enlist them in your business. That there's a sphere for business and a sphere for religion and a sphere for family and a sphere for friends. And in Jewish life, these things kind of, meld together more. So particularly in traditional Jewish life, almost everyone that you voluntarily socialize with is going to be a fellow Orthodox Jews, because Jewish dietary laws are so restrictive, and other Jewish laws just make it so much easier to hang out with fellow members of the tribe. And so someone who came from the more individualist Protestant background converted to Judaism, I noticed how energizing but also challenging and competitive the more communal group approach to life. So if you all have to pass an exam, such as becoming a nursing home administrator or any kind of exam, it's more of a group approach, like Havrusa learning. Havrusa traditionally means that you have a study partner in study of Torah, but you'll often combine resources to study for an exam, to overcome any obstacle in life. There's a greater investment in each other and in family and in friends and in the community, and with that comes a decrease in freedom, right? Because when people are investing in you, of course, they're going to have considerable expectations. So from a non-Jewish perspective, like the intensity of Jewish life and the mutual obligations that parents and children and members of the tribe will have for each other, they seem daunting, disconcerting, distasteful. But if you can pull it off, right, it can be a tremendous source of energy and can be a very effective strategy. Obviously some people are not well suited to a group strategy. Even plenty of Jews are very individualist, and Jews are heavily affected by the surrounding culture. So if the surrounding culture is Anglo and heavily individualist, then Jews will be too. And there's a downside for a big group strategy, that you'll be less eager to rock the boat, right? You'll be taking into consideration how everything you say and do will affect your bonds, your ties, your community, your family. So, Jewish friend of mine, many Jewish friends of mine, like absolutely fascinated by the various detours down dark alleys that I've made in my quote-unquote blogging career. And they'll say, I'm fascinated by what you do, but I don't respect it. Like, I'm interested in what you do, but I don't respect it. These are people with, wives, children, or at least they would never want to bring that level of shame on their community, on their friends, on their family, on their group. And coming from my Anglo background, right, I have this very individualist approach to life kind of wired into me by both probably my genetics and my socialization. So I agree with John Mearsheimer. Compared to the power of genetics and early imprinting and socialization, like, reason is a very weak instrument compared to the power of those two things. But it's one of the most challenging parts of converting to Judaism for someone from particularly a Protestant or an individualist background, is you essentially have to pass the group test, right? You have to get along with the group. That's probably the primary part of your conversion. You have to live communally, where pretty much everybody knows your business. And for many, that's absolutely daunting, distasteful, horrifying. It's a challenge, right? The other big challenge about moving into Jewish life from Protestant life is the extent to which it's ritualized. Like, there's a ritual for almost everything, and so there are prescribed disciplines, ways of doing things, and it's not just a matter of the heart. So in a way, it's a difference between a trad perspective, where there are sacred times, sacred places, sacred rituals, sacred things that you say, sacred leaders, that not everyone's the same, not everyone's equally an expert or equally worthy of respect in different areas, and that we're porous, right? That's the traditional Jewish perspective. That's the traditional perspective, that whatever's going on in the community, in your family, in your extended family, among your friends, has a profound effect on you. Right? That's the traditional perspective. We are porous. So what's going on with Elliot Blatt affects me. Even when I fall out with someone like Dennis Dale, what's going on with Dennis Dale affects me. That's the trad perspective. We affect each other. That together we create certain ambiance, or if you want to look at it in spiritual terms, a certain spiritual level, a madrega, a level, or a holiness level, or a level close to God, or in secular terms, a level close to reality, or removed from reality, or distorting of reality. And so, if my friend Elliot Blatt, goes off the deep end, right, that affects me. Or if I go off on the deep end, that affects him. And so that causes people to be more invested in each other's lives, and therefore more intrusive on each other's lives. So I notice a lot of Orthodox Jews are really happy to have non-Jewish neighbors, because they just feel a little more breathing space, a little more room to operate without feeling like the community is like snooping and right on top of them. If you can navigate community, then there is just an energy there that is not available anywhere else, right? From my experience, the greatest source of energy is getting on the same page with other people, creating a shared reality with other people, having some kind of synchronicity or rhythm with other people, so that you're bouncing off each other, creating a shared bond, out of which comes a shared ethic. And all other sources of energy are fleeting and weak compared to that. Like, compared to that level of energy, of living in community, and daffodil and coffee, and green tea, and exercise, and eating your veggies, they don't compete, right? They come nowhere close to the energy that's available from bonding and connecting with another person, or just having a good friend. Okay, 40, would you referee a mud fight between Liddell and Blatt? What I thought was the most hilarious part of all that was Liddell calling Elliot a wild animal. Isn't part of the challenge that everyone knows you're a convert, and you're a convert, a bit of a confound? From what I'm told by people in the Orthodox Jewish community, is that they don't usually think of me as a convert. Right? I've been in the tribe for about 30 years, and I take on my responsibilities, and practically, on a day-to-day basis, me being a convert, to the best of my perceptions, just doesn't count for much, right? It really doesn't affect people. So I find that overwhelmingly in Jewish life and non-Jewish life, people overwhelmingly treat me according to my merits. So I have often found it a tremendous challenge living in community, because just under the surface, I'm a grandiose, attention-seeking, narcissistic, look at me, look how special I am. And that is not conducive to bonds, to ties, to family, right? Good morning, good morning. Good to see you.
Me too, thank you.
And so I found living in community a real challenge, but I don't want to do without it. For all the challenges and failures and ways I've flamed out from living in community and getting myself exiled, I just can't imagine living without it, because it just makes everything so much more sweet. Like, I had a fantastic time. I was a friend. So I had a fantastic time in Sydney, but still it was overwhelmingly a solitary experience. I was overwhelmingly spending my days alone, not nearly as meaningful as when I'm doing activities together. So what makes my learning and my solitary activities, study, listening to podcasts, what makes them meaningful is that I then get to share them with other people, my friends, with you, with a community, extended family, a tribe, right? So I feel like I carry my bonds, my extended adopted family everywhere I go. I think you're walking through a signal dead zone. So maybe I'm in the dead zone, or maybe you're in the dead zone, or maybe we're in the dead zone together. But what's your life experience? Like, have you tasted life in community? And once you develop a taste for the energy that's available there, the valley of shadow signal death, right? Once you taste the energy and enthusiasm and passion and excitement and meaning and purpose that's embedded in living in community, it's really hard to live any other way. Right? Like, people who struggle for meaning in their life, it's because they're isolated. Right? People who live with a lot of love in their life are not struggling, reaching for meaning, right? Wondering what it's all about. Right? If you're struggling over meaning, it's a screaming wake-up call. There's a lack of love in your life, a lack of bonds, a lack of ties, a lack of family, extended family, friends, community, tribe, connection, shared commitments, shared activities. Like, once you have that, you get an ethic from that, right? You get a sense of right and wrong, because you also have people who will monitor you and judge you against this ethic. You develop areas where you can contribute, where your special gifts and talents will be used by those around you, and where other people will be glad to contribute to your life. So it will become the primary source of meaning, of ethics, of guidance, of energy, of how to most effectively and efficiently use your resources. The most effective way of becoming, whoever you can be. Because if you need voice lessons, people know a good voice teacher. If you need a car, people will know where you can get a car. If you need a doctor, if you need a good dentist, a good accountant, people in the community will help you out. And so I have so many blind spots. It's just an enormous aid to have a community around me where people can point things out. And I hope I can be open to listening to those suggestions. On the other hand, some people are just born to be individualists. They find life in community strangling. So for a minority of people, they're probably best off with an individualist strategy. To be continued.